LeBron and MJ, and I want you to hear his comment if you haven't, and then I want you to comment on A, his comment, and B, your thoughts on it, if you don't mind.
All right.
You played against MJ and Kobe and with LeBron. So where do you stand on the GOAT conversation?
Yeah, I've seen all of them, and by far is Michael Jordan. I think he's in a conversation amidst himself. MJ is just on a different level because MJ, we're not talking about numbers. We're talking about his ability. You know, like he played with dominance, he played with force, but he also played with finesse.
By far.
Your initial thoughts on that, Swish?
By far, absolutely not, obviously. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, growing up, obviously, and I got the jersey tatted on my stomach. Like, MJ was the greatest of all time, in my opinion, up until 2 years ago. And I was with Ray Allen by far. But the last couple of years, at 33 years old, averaging the triple-double a whole month, walking into the playoffs. I mean, just hit 31,000 points the other day, hit 30,000 points earlier this year. 8,000 rebounds, 8,000 assists. It's
insane, bro. Like,
I mean, how far do we have? Like, what more do we have to keep going as far as whether it's numbers or just ability? Like, at what point do we just say when?
I have this argument all the time. Not with P because we're on the same page, but with other people. And the only argument that I get in return is the era that Jordan played in. And I was like, well, LeBron can't help what year he was born.
What about the era?
That the era of the way they called fouls back then, and that it was tougher for Mike to score.
So I'm glad you brought. I'm glad you brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of bums in that era.
100%.
Let's be clear.
100%.
There were a lot of bums because a friend of mine sent me a clip of MJ scoring 60-something on the Cavs. Craig Elo was guarding him. You have any idea what our guest today would do to Craig Elo?
Let me ask you this: who was Craig Elo's backup?
I don't even know.
He caught some of that too. It
No,
wasn't
but that's
just
my
Craig.
point. It's like,
so that's what I'm saying.
like-
We can't even name his
But,
backup.
but that's my point. Even guys that were like great defenders back then, no disrespect to them. And normally when you say no disrespect, you're going to be really disrespectful.
Right.
100%.
Bill Laimbeer couldn't make an NBA team today. John Sally could not make an NBA team today. Maybe they do. Maybe they're 10, 11 guys because on a skill level, they're not there. These guys were starting guys, all-star, so when you look at it that way, and I'm not saying there wasn't great players back then.
There were some guys.
I'm just saying we're getting to the point in time
GP, Dominique.
where MJ's played so long ago that now it's I caught a fish this big. MJ never lost a game. MJ won every game. He averaged 50. He also averaged 27 shots a game one season.
Just like if I don't see footage of Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game,
It never happened.
I don't believe it. You're not gonna hold up a piece of paper next to your ear, bro.
I think it was like Brown made a very true statement about that situation. Like, it could have been somebody's 100th birthday, and he's like, "Yo, hold this up for my grandmother,
for real,
or whatever." It was like,
real.
But we've never seen this.
Never seen it.
He averaged 50 rebounds,
And now,
no footage.
But now everyone from that era's gone. Everybody's dead.
Nobody can believe
Nobody's
it.
alive still from that.
That's what.
My challenge on all this Bron MJ thing is, listen, these guys, our guest being one of them, they're a different type of savage, man.
100%.
Like these guys, athletic ability, all that. And look, I'm not saying those guys weren't tough guys and all that stuff. Check. Rules, hand checking, all that. I get it. There weren't 7'2" guards back then either.
No,
of course.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
And it's and even back then, you would look at it like, wait, Chicago lost to the Sixers. Who? What? Like, you'd be like completely astonished.
Yes.
Now you'd be
Yes.
like, oh, Ben must have kicked
Yes.
up.
Yes.
Joel
Right.
Embiid must have this.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
you got guys that can have that competition now.
MJ's peers at the time that he was being compared to were Clyde Drexler. He didn't have to go through the Golden State Warriors winning 73 games. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm just saying, if we're going to keep it a buck, let's keep it a buck. Guys today are bigger, faster, and more
LeBron
athletic.
LeBron played against more Hall of Famers.
Like, so I just
That's crazy.
And then the automatic one that always makes me laugh is they go to 6 for 6. That's a team goal. Let's keep that a buck. Let's not act like
100.
MJ
That's
ain't played with
100.
2 Hall of Famers,
Yeah,
right? And a
100%.
Hall of Fame coach,
100%.
Right.
So that's a team goal. But my point also is, when MJ played, I want to say 16 seasons. So 10 years, he didn't even make the finals.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna tell the story, let's tell the whole story. And look, I'm not here shitting on Mike. I had his posters up on my wall too.
1,000%.
You know,
I got his sneakers on right now.
And
Like,
I
what are we
agree.
talking about?
And I agree with you 100%, Swish. That up to 2 years ago, I would tell LeBron, MJ's the GOAT. And you know what the
Mike,
craziest shit
for
is?
sure.
LeBron would tell you that.
100%.
Oh, he's the GOAT. He's the greatest.
The last thing, if you really want to keep it 1,000, is how when these guys, these upper echelon guys in the league, become free agents and have their choice of where to go, ain't nobody coming to the East, bruh.
No.
Facts.
People are out of here. They'd rather load up the West
Yep.
and try their shot
Facts.
than come to the East and run into that buzzsaw.
Facts.
Like
Every time.
the fact that he's shaping the NBA like this, dog, like that's a whole
But
different feat.
even that, like people, like since he's been in the league, everybody's oh the East is weak, the East is that, East is this. Up until a week, 2 weeks ago, people wasn't saying that.
Yep.
People like, oh, Victor Oladipo got Indiana playing
Exactly.
unbelievable.
Right.
Philly's coming.
Exactly.
Boston is just loaded up
Milwaukee
with Kyrie.
was all the craze
Milwaukee
at
is
one
this.
point.
Miami is there.
Yeah.
Like they got all this talk, but now all of a sudden, oh well, they won 11 out of the last 12, and
Great point.
it's the East though. The East
exactly.
is weak. The East is that. Like at what point do you just give credit when credit is due? Like that's
Great
all
point.
I'm saying.
Great point.
100%.
Speaking of the East, I know from